Hey nerds! It's Geeks of Cascadia. Geeks of Cascadia. Geeks of Cascadia. Exclusive tabletop gaming podcast for the Pacific Northwest. All levels of gamers. Analog gaming. Tabletop news. Dungeons and Dragons and magic. Stupid, mindless banter.
There will definitely be some. That's probably our best. That's our best feature.
You are listening to the Geeks of Cascadia podcast, featuring Steve Hobbs, Paul Anderson, and Joe Costa.
Hey geeks, Blue Samurai here. It is episode 28.
28.
Yeah,
That's
28.
right. We're still here.
We're looking good. We're still here. Broadcasting live.
Yes, from around the table in Linwood, Washington.
That's right. You should go there.
Yeah.
Reserve your Mordecaiden's or Mordenkaden's, however you pronounce it, Tomopho's coming out May 18th at your local game store. Support your local game store.
Yes, get the alt cover.
Yes. So, obviously, Geeks of Cascadia, we are your podcast to kind of Northwest Cascadia news, mostly in tabletop gaming, cons, developers, artists, yada, yada, yada. It's right there below here. Or
yes.
visit our website. You can...
we don't have a website.
We don't have a website, but we have a Facebook page.
It's a Facebook page,
That's
yes.
right. It's kind of like a website,
Why have
right?
a website anymore? I see no point in having a website.
Well, it's like a website.
Yes, well, with that and Twitter and Instagram and SoundCloud or iTunes,
Right.
what could we provide on our website?
And how do our listeners get a hold of us on our website or Facebook page?
Well, our Facebook
Email.
page, we're Geeks of Cascadia, just like at Geeks of Cascadia on Twitter, and the same thing on Instagram. If you want to email us, which would be fantastic. To
Yeah, let me go
real
check.
Email.
Let me go check the email.
Just check the mailbag.
Nobody's
Nothing.
emailed us.
That's geeksofcascadia@gmail.com.
Yeah, email us a question that you want us to research, a game you want us to review. Maybe you want to be on the podcast.
Maybe you want to tell us that we're doing this wrong, and that's great too.
Which is fine.
We're happy for feedback.
Also, speaking of feedback,
Yeah.
rate us.
Yes.
Rate us on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, all those things.
Facebook, Board Game Geek.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, they may want to know who we are. Who are you again?
I already said I'm Blue Samurai.
Did you really?
I did. But who are you?
Oh, I'm still Paul.
Oh, all right. Hey, Paul.
And over there is where Joe would normally be, but he
That's
couldn't be
right.
with us today.
Sorry, Joe.
The Costosaurus is not here.
But you know who is here, who will be on our show, is Doug and Kelly doing a game review
Yes.
of Feudum.
Yes, Feudum.
Mm-hmm.
It's very interesting. It's very detailed and in depth. It looks like.
It is. It is. It's pretty long.
Yes.
It's about 45 minutes long, I think.
Oh, the video.
Yeah, the video.
The video is about 45 minutes long. The game is about 80 to 120 minutes long.
Oh, okay. Right.
Yeah. So
right.
If that's
Right.
what you're into, that's the game for
right.
you.
It's a
Yeah.
check out the review.
Yes.
It's good. Next time, Doug. Anyway, Paul, what do we got going on today?
Well, we've got that, and we're going to talk to Mark Walters from Dragonflight about Dragonflight.
Did we talk to Mark Walters?
We did. We did that at Metro Seattle Gamers.
Yes, we did. We did.
That was very cool.
And those guys are great, big friends to us.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
Big supporters. Big shout out to Dragonflight, which is, by the way, one of the conventions you should sign up for.
And one of our sponsors.
Yes, one of our sponsors. By the way, just a note, a technical note. I don't know what happened. It was probably me, but the sound quality on that interview, not so good.
I may have been a little gassy.
Paul might have been a little gassy. Just turn it up, just a slight.
Okay.
And you'll hear it.
Okay, cool.
I think it's important. I had to tell the listeners.
Yes.
Yes, warn them. And then, of course, Feudum.
Yes.
But
Feudum.
what do we got going on for Kickstarter stuff? Or do you want to do?
Let's start at the Costosaurus for
yes.
Kickstarter Corner.
All right.
It's not here, I'm sorry.
No.
So that's me. You're stuck with me again. So we have just kicked 5 days ago, Daily Magic Games had their expansion to Villages of Valeria called Landmarks.
Ooh.
Yeah, this is very cool. They had a goal of 15,000. They're now at 30,000. They hit their goal in 80 minutes.
Wow.
That's bananas.
That is.
But that's awesome for them. That's great. Looks great. Also, I stumbled across this really cool thing called Last Epoch. But who was that by again? Let's scroll up, Paul. by 11th Hour Games. It looks really cool.
Wait, it says a loot action
Yeah,
game.
loot-based action RPG.
What does that mean?
I don't know specifically, but
Google
it sounds
it.
great. With deep character customization, time travel, crafting, they haven't reached their goal. They're at $59,000, and they need $210,000.
Oh, holy cow!
cats!
Yeah. How many days do they got left?
They got 23 days left, so get out your bankroll. But it looks really cool. At least check it out.
Yes.
The Last Epoch on Kickstarter looks really cool.
Looks like I got a little free downloadable.
There's a free downloadable demo. That's really hard to say. Free downloadable demo.
Yes.
So that's the things I picked out of Kickstarter because I'm not super aware of it. I got an update from Goatfish. They had a little, a few days delay with their friend of the pod.
Okay.
Chad Gray. They have got a little delay in their printing. I don't know if it has anything to do with tariffs or anything.
Ooh.
But
we don't get political on this
no,
show.
we don't. We do want our games, and they get printed in China.
Yeah. What?
Many cases.
I'm gonna drink this beer.
So in a little delay, he's gonna have his test version by the end of this week, and then back on track.
Sounds good. What else do we got going for Kickstarter? Is that it?
Well, that's about it. That's about all I got. I'm not as in-depth and in-tuned to Kickstarter as the Costosaurus. He is the master.
Well, I am going to look. We did do an interview with our good friend Chad Gray of Goatfish, and I am looking up the episode number.
It was really great. I'm going to vamp for a minute. He came down to Games Plus in Lake Stevens, Washington, demoed the game for us. It looked like it was done. It was my kind of game. It's like a 10-minute card game. That's what I like.
Episode 12. Check it out. It's really good.
Check it out.
Yes.
On the iTunes.
What do we got for cons?
Cons, there's conventions.
Yeah, there is.
Coming up, we've got a tiny little thing called PaizoCon. There's All Things Paizo. That is May 28th through 25th. So Paizo, Starfinder, Pathfinder.
I know.
Very cool.
Pathfinder 2, I guess, is coming out.
Pathfinder 2 is coming out. We're hoping to interview someone about that soon.
Yes, they actually contacted us.
Yes, great.
Yeah.
Yes, I
great.
have to get after those tables.
We're really good at fooling people that we're a legitimate podcast.
Yes, this isn't even around the table. This is Steve's mom's basement.
That's right. I'm still living there.
That's in Seattle. It's at the Doubletree, which I think is in SeaTac.
Right.
It's only $75 for 4 days.
What if this was my basement, Paul?
It might very. I'm not sure it's not your basement.
The games.
I just wake up
what
here
if it is?
every 2 weeks.
Anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
We also have, wait for it, Con, June 8th and 10th. If you're the kind of person that likes to make conventions, this is the con for you.
Yes.
Yes, and that's going to be in Snoqualmie Pass. It's a con for planning conventions.
We know a little bit about that.
Yeah, a little bit about that. Yeah, we're you more than me. I try to help.
You've been there in the first OrcaCon.
I've been there.
Sponsors.
Yes. And there is some really cool news from Gen Con. They have their event catalog is now live, and I am now going to read it to you. No, I'm not, because that would take forever. It's 4 days.
But you can go to the website.
You go to the website, gencon.com. And that's my con news.
Well, let's talk about OrcaCon, though.
OrcaCon,
and Dragonflight, just a little bit.
Yeah.
Again, Dragonflight, go on the website. I think it's dragonflight.org.
Yes.
It's in August.
Yep.
Register for a room. Please do that. Register for the con. So do that now. OrcaCon.
Yes, we'll wait.
What?
And then, and now that you're done with that, go register for OrcaCon, which is in January.
All right. Good. So, Paul, what should we do first?
I think we should probably do Mark Walters of Dragonflight first.
I think you're right. Let's do that.
Okay, cool.
So let's do that right about
now.
Hey Geeks, Blue Samurai here. We are here with Mark Walters. He is the chairman of the board of Dragonflight. And of course, Dragonflight is a convention that we go to. We're inspired to create OrcaCon. Mark, so nice to meet you.
It's good to be here.
Typically, we have Amy who does this, but we're glad that you're here. You're a great replacement for Amy right now.
I'll do my best.
You know, but so
I'm no Amy.
You are no Amy. Amy is one of a kind. So tell us what is going on right now, the status of Dragonflight. I know we're a couple months away. I know we're a little early, but we just gave a status a little while ago of OrcaCon.
Right.
we're doing great, and we owe a lot of it to you guys for helping us out. So what's going on with Dragonflight?
So we're in the process of ramping up and getting ready for our convention in August, just basically getting things together. We're doing a little bit of rebranding as well, changing the name from Dragonflight to Dragonflight Game Con.
Cool.
Because it describes what the convention is a little better. The name, we sometimes get confused with Anne McCaffrey's novels.
Oh yeah. Have they ever contacted you about that? I've
No.
always wondered.
No.
Okay. All right.
No, but we trade places in Google search. If you put in
Okay.
Dragonflight, it's either going to be her or us.
Wow.
We can go back and forth. But we're rebranding and in the process of creating a new logo, and
Very cool.
so it's good times, and we're sort of riding a wave. The last several years have been really good years for Dragonflight. So. And also we've just moved our clubhouse into new digs, which is also part of the organization, and so we're all excited for that too.
Now, what were your numbers coming out of last year? It was around 800 or 1,000?
It was just shy of 900 people.
Oh,
Awesome.
It's good. It's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
And so what are you looking at, besides the logo changes and all that, is there any programmatic changes that you're doing at Dragonflight coming up?
Not specifically. We tend to change things a little bit every year because the nature of our hobby is changing every year, right? The different things are popular. We're putting a lot more focus on organized play and role playing. We have perhaps a little bit less of the historical minis and war games than we've had in the past, but that's still pretty robust. We're doing more in tournaments. We're doing more in terms of things like raising money for charity and that sort of thing with our RPG marathon and other things. So we tend to do a little bit something different every year, but there's not a specific focus. It's more like rolling with the changes.
Right. But you'll still have your kind of traditional stuff that you've always had that makes Dragonflight familiar.
Yeah.
To most people, like you always have that movie room.
Yeah.
You'll always have that corner where there's an Axis and Allies game that's sitting there for a long time, the big large one.
Oh yeah.
And you'll have that kind of RPG rooms,
Yep.
which had a great time. We, in fact, Paul and I, we did the Adventures League, I think, at the last one.
Yeah.
Had a great time.
Very fun.
Yeah.
We got a bunch of buddies from high school
Mhm.
all around one table. That was really
Great
cool.
time.
So, are you going to have the Playtest Northwest again?
Yep, we're going to have
Very
Playtest
cool.
Northwest, and we have both Adventures League and Pathfinder Society, and we haven't finalized all of the things that we're going to be doing just yet, so keep a lookout on the website for that.
And of course, it'll still be at the Bellevue Hilton,
Still going to be at the Bellevue Hilton.
and you can sign up right now if you want to.
That's right. That's right.
And there's early bird pricing still till June 10th?
We are early bird pricing until June. Yeah.
Very cool.
And you're probably like us. We're always worried about making sure that people sign up for a room because I think you enjoy the experience a little better. It's a little less stress when you actually get a room at the convention. Then you don't have to worry about driving back and forth.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, exactly.
Being tired.
right. Or having, you can sit back in the lounge and have that one extra beer. You won't be drinking and driving. You can just go up in your room.
Well, that's right. That's right.
So last year you had a Catan qualifier. You have that again?
I'm not entirely sure. We're going to be doing the Catan qualifier. It was a little lightly attended.
Okay.
So we're going to look for something else to put in that position. One of the things that we're doing in a big way this year coming up is play to win. We're having a lot more action in the play to win.
Very
so
cool.
a lot of games to give away. You come down, you sit down, you play the game, you win the game, you're into a drawing to win something nice. So that's something that we're really excited about. We did a little bit of that last year, and we're going to be expanding that this year.
Very cool.
Now, so you've been growing every year. We've noticed.
For 39 years.
Yeah, for 39 years, and you moved around. Obviously, I think you were at a community college last time, right? Is that correct?
We started Seattle University.
That's right. Okay, Seattle University. What are the future plans for Dragonflight? Are you going to bust the size of this convention and maybe you have to expand elsewhere, or?
So that's been a topic of discussion, a rather spirited discussion, because we are growing at a rate now that suggests that we will probably outgrow the venue very soon.
Yeah.
And if the rate and our growth is really for two reasons. One is we've got a dynamite convention director who really knows what she's doing, and she's really it's so well run that we're just growing a lot because of that. Right. But also because the hobby is becoming more and more mainstream all the time, and there's more and more people who want to play it. And Seattle's growing, right? So there's going to come a time in the very near future when we're just not going to have. We're either going to have to move to a new venue, or we're going to have to cap our ticket sales.
Yeah.
And I think the board right now is leaning in the direction of capping ticket sales instead of getting huge. Because one of the charms of Dragonflight is that it's not a monster convention.
Right. Yeah.
It's not NorwestCon or Emerald City Comic Con. It's 1,000 nerds gathered together, which is a nice sort of medium-sized convention where you have a chance to interact with everything without getting just overtired from all the crowds and stuff. So I think it's more likely that we'll cap our ticket sales at somewhere around 1,200.
Wow.
Because that's probably about what the venue will handle.
So and that's what I like about the charm of Dragonflight. I go there, I can play games with my friends, but you also meet new people.
Yeah.
And on top of that, you do have game designers and developers that are kind of showing their latest things out there. And sometimes you can play games right with them too. Right. I think that's kind of the charm, probably because of the location that we're in. So what have you seen of the changes of Dragonfly over the years? Or I should say, tabletop gaming. There has been a lot of changes since the 80s and 90s. I think probably when you and I were gaming.
Well, back when we were just a bunch of nerds sitting in our mother's basements, right? I mean, I think the biggest change is that the people who are coming are not just nerds sitting in their mother's basements. They're from all walks of life, and you can look at the population of Dragonflight today and compare that to even just 10 years ago when I was kind of getting started, and a lot less of them look like me, right? There are a lot fewer pear-shaped nerdy white guys, and a lot more people of color. There's LGBTQ. There's a lot more women and families. We've got a robust family track and kids gaming, and kids under 12 are free. So that's bringing a lot of families in, and that's a really good change. I see that as a very, very positive thing.
And I noticed in the last couple of years you've had kind of programs that would be more welcoming to families. I think you had is it the Boffer tournament for kids or something like that? I saw
the Boffer tournament is awesome. Very inexpensive way of taking your aggressions out on somebody. No, I mean it's a lot of fun.
And what does it take to do a con? I mean, you're not for OrcaCon. We're planning this thing the whole year. I'm sure you're doing the same thing, right?
Yeah, well, I would say that, I mean, we start in earnest around January or February, really starting to plan for August. And usually September and October, November, we sort of take a break. So for us, it's more of a 8 to 9 month sort of commitment. That's about how long. I think the difference between us and OrcaCon is that we have an advantage in that we have a lot of people who've been doing this for a long time. And so I think it kind of comes naturally. And I think with OrcaCon, it's your I don't want to sound condescending. OrcaCon is awesome. We love OrcaCon. But I think you're still kind of maybe in a little bit of a learning curve, right? Whereas with us, it's like, well, Steve was going to take care of that, and Mark's going to take care of that, and Paul's going to take care of that, and so we don't necessarily have to spend as much time on the organizing.
Right.
And that's a double-edged sword. I mean,
yeah, we are. I've noticed at OrcaCon, we're doing great. We just have to fine tune and make adjustments along the way, because obviously we haven't done it as long, but we've taken a lot of ideas from you and from other people, and thank goodness we got some staff that been doing a few cons. So no, it's been really good.
We're all really amazingly impressed with OrcaCon and how well OrcaCon does, especially in the realm of diversity. It's just you really did a great job. There are times when I'm envious of that. I I wish Dragonflight had. We've got this history behind us that is both wonderful and at the same time something that we need to change a little bit. And that, it really, for the first 10 or 15 years of its existence, was nothing but a sort of a white men getting together to play war games. And there's still a lot of that, and I'm not saying that that's a bad thing that you have white guys playing war games. I think white guys playing war games is awesome, but we also want to be a much more diverse convention, and we're getting there. And then we look at OrcaCon and we see how good you guys did right out of the gate. This is like your third or fourth year.
Well, we're hoping that we learn off each other. We just become stronger for it. It's a community, really.
And it's really been a pleasure because, as you probably know, I've also been volunteering at OrcaCon as well, and going back to Dragonflight after a successful OrcaCon and say, did you see what they did at OrcaCon? We need to do this at Dragonflight too. So we're learning from you guys as well. So
all right,
Cool.
yeah,
we'll combine forces,
I
grow the community.
I think we
Yes,
should.
that's what we're doing.
I think we should.
That's
yeah,
our goal.
yeah.
Well, Paul, do you have any?
I think we hit all my questions I wanted to ask. We should probably hit the specifics again. That's dragonflight.org.
It's dragonflight.org.
And Dragonflight is August 24th, 25th, 26th.
That's correct.
And Bellevue.
In the Bellevue Hilton. Yeah.
Very cool. And you've also got a Facebook page.
We have a Facebook page. Do a search for Dragonflight Convention. We have a Facebook page and we have a Facebook group as well.
Okay.
Now we've been doing, and I know you guys have been doing like game nights, or we have certain events outside of it, part of the whole marketing part of the convention.
Sure.
Is there anything you're doing between now and then that maybe the viewers and listeners would be interested in?
I am. We just went to OrcaCon. We just went to NorwestCon with our traveling lending library, which is jointly owned by Dragonflight and Metro Seattle Gamers, and I am not aware of any conventions it's going to between here and then. So I think we're ETX got canceled. We were going to go there.
Yeah, kind of
There's
sad.
a few.
Yeah.
There's WagonCon coming up in
And
Dalles.
we just learned about WagonCon's existence, and we're looking at maybe trading some
Oh,
marketing with them. But
Cool.
yeah,
So right now you're probably in the stages of, oh boy, Dragonflight's coming around. We better start planning and getting stuff together.
it's starting to get a little busy.
I forgot to ask you, how many people are involved with this whole with Dragonflight?
It takes about 20 to 25 people to put on a convention. A little bit fewer than that at the actual convention itself. But overall, it's about 20 or 25.
And you're still looking for people to volunteer, be part of the board.
We're still looking for people to volunteer. We love for people to come in and volunteer to help out with running the convention itself. And if you send an email to volunteer@dragonflight.org, our volunteer coordinator will hook you up. We're also looking for people to help us run to be on staff to run certain parts of the convention, what we call area event coordinators. So if you think you might be able to help us run board games or card games or something to that effect, we're looking for that. And we are always looking for people to run for board of directors. So it's an election. Everybody who's a member of Dragonflight, which is everybody who attends the convention, gets to vote. And every year we have an election. We're going to have 2 seats available this year. And so if you're the kind of person who wants to be a part of a volunteer organization and help out, come and run for election.
Cool.
Sounds fun, except I tell you what, I just don't like elections.
You tell election.
All right. Anyway, Mark, it was nice visiting with you, and look forward to seeing you at Dragonflight.
Yeah, thanks a
Look
bunch.
forward to seeing you guys.
All right.
That was great talking to Mark. That was great
That
being
was
down
amazing.
at Metro Seattle Gamers.
Yes.
And I love Dragonflight.
Dragonflight.
And I'm going to go this year because I'm not going to be out of town. I'm going to be there for 2 days, I think.
Well, what about Gen Con?
Gen Con is not in my cards.
At all?
No. I like to be
Ever?
with no.
In the future?
I like to be with my no more than 1,000 close personal friends.
What about in the future?
In
Your
the future, no. I have no
But
desire
I'm
to go to Gen
going.
Con.
I can't. We gotta go. You gotta go one time.
Well, I will hold
One
it.
time.
I will stick a pin in that for
you
maybe later.
promise me that you'll go at least one time in
Maybe
your life.
after I retire.
That's like next year.
Well, hopefully.
Anyway, so great interview. It's just amazing how long Dragonflight has been around, how much they've evolved, and they're just a growing convention. And it's really great because it's a small little convention and really honors tabletop gaming in the community.
They really do, and they really support Pacific Northwest gaming and conventions.
And it's really how OrchidCon started, by kind of going to their conventions and like, yeah, we need to do the same thing. So, and we don't step on each other. We kind of work together, and it's been great. So, with that, we got a game review, right?
We got a game review from Doug and Kelly from that section of our show that I never know what it's called.
Geeks Tabletop Game Review.
Yes.
It's great.
And that is called Feudum.
Feudum. Do you know anything about Feudum?
I looked at it briefly on Board Game Geek.
Well, luckily we've got a review of it.
That's right. That's what it's for.
So
don't listen to me talk about it, because I don't know anything. Listen to Doug and Kelly, because they know everything.
Let's hear what they have to say.
Yeah.
Hey Geeks, I'm Kelly, this is Doug, and welcome to another Geeks Tabletop Game Review. And today, we're looking at Doug's game of Feudum, which you may have seen us open earlier.
On a previous episode.
On a previous episode.
Maybe it's on this episode. I haven't talked to Steve about
Words
when
are
he's
hard.
going to do it. Yeah. So this game,
There you go.
developed by Mark Swanson, with art from Justin Schultz. It's both their first games that they developed. It's very well done.
Pretty good for
I
a
really
first
liked
try,
it.
I guess.
It's published by Oddbird Games. They've done multiple games before, I believe.
Yeah.
So I got this copy on Kickstarter. Got it a few weeks ago. And it kickstarted last year. They did fairly well for their Kickstarter goals and all that. But yeah, it's for 2 to 5 players, ages 12 and up. I think we agreed it's
14,
a little bit
15.
Yeah, 14 or 15. It's definitely one of those heavy strategy games. I mean, if you're used to playing these kinds of heavy games, then it may be for you.
Or for your 12-year-old.
For your 12-year-old, yeah, definitely. It is about 80 to 180 minutes to play.
Definitely a long game.
Definitely a heavy, long game, yeah. And it retails for $79.99, which I can see that because you've got all the different punches.
A lot of wood in this.
Wooden pieces.
A lot of cardboard.
Yeah, so it makes sense. So we've got it set up for a 2-player game, so we're going to jump into that and give you a rundown on how to play the game.
That's going to take a while.
Just a little bit. All right, let's go do that.
Alright guys, we've got our board here set up in setup mode, so we have everything, all of these chits are randomized for what they're going to be. We've got pretty much everything where it's going to end up being for the game. So I'm going to start flipping these over and Doug will explain what they are.
So we've got a few different types of locations on the board. Let's see what we've got here. The yellow ones are towns. They basically, if you want to, you can tax them and gain money. See, taxing is another thing you could have done to get money.
You're right, but I only had one township.
Start making more. Come on, that's what
I
you
made
gotta
Feudum
do.
instead.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, I mean that also increases money.
So we have towns, outposts, farms.
And we've got feudums that you can have later in the game.
And those will come up later.
Yep.
Yes. So progression-wise, outposts become farms, farms become towns, and then towns become feudums. So you have to improve all of those to get them. Or you can keep them as they are and say, like, farm at the farm for more food.
Yeah. So to start the game, we've flipped all of these over. We've randomly dealt out a random good to each of the most northern locations in each region. It's got it explained, up there on the epoch marker.
So this is the epoch tracker, and it actually tells you what you're supposed to do each time around. This one says, fill up these things, and everybody gets 3 tokens. And the north stuff, the south stuff, the east stuff, the west stuff, and then end the game.
Yeah. So to start the game, starting with the first player, I'll be the first player just kind of to give it as an example. You choose one of your pawns, and you get to have it come in as a representative of each of one of the 6 different guilds. I think for this game, I want to be in the Alchemist Guild. And so I get to place this out on the board at one of the starting locations. Starting locations have pink circles on them. Some of them don't. I believe there's one in almost every central zone.
Yes.
So the hills, the desert, and the badlands.
So you start in the center of the board-ish.
Yeah.
So I'm going to pick the farmer and go out over here.
Now, in placing our pawn on the board, we also gain status in one of the 6 guilds, or in the guild that pawn represents. So I get to take my influence marker and I get to go throw it over here on the Alchemist Guild.
Which is, we'll show you the guilds in a minute.
Yes, we will go a full detail on those whenever we get to the actions that we'll take.
So each player starts with 7 influence cubes.
7 food, 7 money.
7 food? Did I lose a food? I lost a food.
I'll get it from the haversack.
I give you 7, right?
Yeah, I got 6.
Alright, okay. And 3 of the chosen good. I'm gonna go over colors.
Now, the goods have a variety of uses. We have white cubes, which are saltpeter. They let you take extra actions on your turn. They're used to repeat actions that you couldn't normally repeat. That's pretty much it. There's sulfur, which I have a sulfur here. Sulfur lets you take in an additional action. It's not an additional action. It's you get to
play
go
an extra card, isn't it?
No, you get to go 2 times in a row. You get to play 1 action card and then play another action card.
So you play out of turn.
Pretty much, yes. You get to play twice. Yeah.
You go twice. Then we have wood, which is used mostly for upgrading and building boats.
Yeah, boats. And
then we have black.
Which is iron. Iron is used to upgrade towns or upgrade farms into towns.
And to build gunpowder.
Yes, or crud, as it is so called. And then we have food. Yes, food is needed to nourish your pawns, just like any other kind of game.
These are pawns.
Yeah, pawns.
In case Doug didn't say that.
Pawns. In any other game like Stone Age or what's the other one? Agricola, Caverna, all of those kinds of games where you need to feed your people. So now that we've kind of started on the board, we'll go through a round of each of the game. Yeah, we will select our 4 action cards. Once we've selected them, possibly 5 if we want to take an extra one with a saltpeter. We will play them in turn succession 1 at a time until everyone has played their cards. Then we'll nourish our pawns, which we can spend food, or sometimes we have sulfur.
Some wine.
In some barrels. And then we will roll the progress die. Progress die basically takes down the clock on the game. You'll roll it for the region that you roll. You'll take the topmost tile if it matches the current or previous epic. So with these stacks of region tiles, once you reveal a certain amount, you'll trigger the next epic, and you'll proceed into that epic, do any scoring that you'll need to do, and any upkeep that you'll need to do, replenish landscapes or the guilds if need be, and do the random pulls for the different locations in the regions. Now you're wondering what these action cards do, and there are quite a few to go through.
Alright, so these cards that you have in your hand, we'll go back to your hand every time. So we're going to go through the actions of what these cards allow you to do. You will pick 4 of them each turn unless you spend resources to take a 5th.
Mm-hmm. So we've got the migrate action. This lets you move one of your pawns onto the board, onto one of the starting locations, or onto a spot that you have a pawn, or a spot that you have influence in. Now, if you have the alchemist on the board, there's a little bonus thing on the board. If you have an alchemist on the board, like I do, I can come on any of the starting spots. It says it down there.
Next, we have influence.
This lets you take control of the locations that your pawns are at. If you have multiple pawns on the board and I play the influence, I get to influence each different location that I have pawns at. And you'll have different ways to mark things. If I'm over here in Kelly's location where she rules and I influence there, I take one of my markers and I basically become a serf. And the serfs get to kind of tend the landscape around the location.
Next we have improve.
Improve lets you upgrade a location type that you rule. Outposts with a wood become farms. Farms with an iron become cities. And cities with a royal writ, which I have over here in the Royals Guild, lets you upgrade a city into a feudum. And feudums basically are not necessarily wilds. They let you give you bonuses for other actions.
They give you influence in guilds.
Yeah, they give you a high status in guilds for the guild that they represent.
Yeah. Future reference, these cubes give you 1 status in those guilds. Feudums give you 3 points of status in that guild.
And then ruling certain types of locations also give you status as well.
The other thing this allows you to do is plant crops or start mines and such. So if Doug is a serf, wants to start growing an orchard, he can do that. And you get those tiles from the epochs.
And so whenever you build it, you spend a wood, you place it on the board at a location where you're a serf, you place its resources on there, and you have the option to, if you want to immediately gain those resources or leave them there, and it'll start to accumulate more and more resources. And you also get 2 points. Hey, look at that.
Yeah, free 2 points just for playing the card.
Yeah.
Alright, next up we have taxing.
Taxing, like before, I said, if you rule a city, you get 2 shillings, and for every additional feudum or city, you gain an additional shilling. And what's also nice about that is if you have the knight on the board, you gain an influence from the supply. It's pretty nice.
Next up we have exploring.
Now, exploring is a way to get end of game victory points in the form of these. These are the royal writs.
These are the royal writs.
These are the seals. I got it backwards when I was talking about. These are the seals. So we have a couple different types. We have ones that you can play during the game to gain an immediate effect, or there are end of game ones. And let me draw from here till I find an end of game one. Oh yes, an end of game one. So this, if you can have a seal at the end of the game and seal it, you will gain 5 points if you have 2 sulfur in your barrels, or 7 points if you have 3. So it's a way to get secret end of game points that people won't know about. Next we have the harvest. If you own, this one's a little bit intricate. If you rule a farm, I keep saying own and rule.
If you have influence over a farm.
It's rule. It says it's rule.
Alright.
So if you rule a farm, you get to draw 5 goods out of the bag. Now for each feudum and other farm you have, you get to draw an additional good. And if you have one of these rosary beads, you get to draw goods equal to the plus on it. And they range from 2 to 5. Now based on the number of goods you control, you can choose to take what's called a kickback, and that you draw out a certain number of goods for your kickback that you just get to keep. So I'm going to draw out, say I just get 5 because I only have 1 farm. I'm going to draw out 1 good at random, and it becomes mine, and I got this sulfur. Then I'm just going to throw it down here into my wine cellar. Then I draw out 4 more.
Again.
Yeah, a little bit. Then I draw out 4 more, and they go onto a farm that I would rule. Say I ruled this farm. They go out onto that farm. Now, a thing about the kickback is if you take a kickback, any monastery beads or rosary beads that you have flip over, because it's kind of an ignoble thing that you do. That well, it's not really very priestly to take a kickback from some of the local farms. So you don't get those bonuses after that. But if you do have the farmer pawn on the board, you get to look at the goods that you draw and choose what your kickback is. So that can be very useful.
Right. Next up, of course, we want to be able to move around the board and influence all of these other spaces that haven't been touched yet.
Yep. So you get a movement, basically a movement point for each pawn you have on the board, and you can split those between any pawns you have on the board. Now when you finish your movement, you get to pilfer from any location that you stop. So say I place this, and I move over there, I get to pilfer the saltpeter and gain it into my other goods. You can, if you have a monk on the board, so I moved over there.
You have a monk?
I have a monk. He gets to move 1 space for free. Kind of going on a pilgrimage. Now we have the repeat action. The repeat lets you repeat a previous action that you played before. Some of them have a ×2 on them. This move action does. Some of them don't. The harvest doesn't. But it lets you repeat one of those ×2 actions.
Special thing, if you repeat the move, you get to take one of your chits and put it on the epic journey track.
Yep, epic journey. For every marker that's highest in that leg will score victory points, and every time you move to the second space of each leg, you get to draw 2 royal reds and keep 1. It also lets you spend a saltpeter to repeat an action that you wouldn't be able to do.
Yep.
Now we get to the Conquer and the Defend action cards. Now these are a little bit intricate in how they work. Conquer lets you attack feudums, other players' pawns, and some of the monsters that come on the board. We've got the behemoth, and we've got the sea monster. Those are pretty nice. Now, some things about this card, you'll notice that you can't ×2 it, so you can't repeat it, and it's the only card that you can't play last. So you can't kind of set up your turn to end the turn by attacking someone. That's not really allowed.
Or watching them take their moves and realizing that they're easy prey.
Yeah. You gotta kind of set it up. Now, each pawn has an attack of 1 and a defense of 2. Each feudum that you attack has a defense of 2. Each monster has an attack of 1 and a defense of 1.
So you really need both of your guys there to even equal what this is.
Yeah. There are some bonuses that you can have. If you have a knight on the board, actually before that. So some things with this, you can also spend 1 saltpeter to give yourself +1 attack. If you have the knight pawn on the board that I just flipped this over to, you can spend any number of saltpeter to increase your attack. Now, say if I attack Kelly here, she can defend and give herself +1 defense to try and stave off the attack. She'll also get a victory point for playing that. Also
can't do this twice.
Yeah, you also can't repeat a defend.
So if you're getting attacked by more than one player, you need to figure out which one you actually want to defend from.
Yeah. Also on the Conquer, if you successfully conquer someone, you get to place one of your markers over on the conquests.
On the conquest, over here.
On the military service, as it is called. This is useful because if you control a feudum at the dawn of the 2nd, 4th, and 5th epoch, you will start to lose points if you haven't done any conquers in the name of the king. There's kind of some disloyalty in that way. So the bottom action of the Conquer is the Starve the People action. If you have the noble on the board, you can, for no victory points, mind you, if you rule a location, you can basically kill off someone's serf, and it gets returned to them. Oh, this was mine. So Kelly could have killed off my serf that's tending that landscape. That also counts as a conquer, so she would take one of her markers and place it over on the conquest board. And the defense against that, you can spend a food to basically take a royal seal, and I'll put my influence back there. I could defend against it and basically say, nope, I'm immune to being starved. Please don't do that anymore.
And then I get a food. This equation is what's getting me. A royal seal minus a ruble plus a negative.
No, it's says for a food you can defend against an opponent's starve action, and you gain a royal seal under that influence marker.
Okay.
Yeah. Now we get to kind of the most complicated of the action cards because there's so much you can do with it. It is the guild action card. Now each of the guilds has 3 different actions that you can do, and we are going to flip over to the guilds right now to kind of give you an overview of what they do. All right, so
This board is so long we had to cut it in half to
Yeah.
show you all of it in one video.
So this is kind of where most of the interaction happens, is with the guild boards. Now you can see there's quite a lot of things to look out for. We have, based on the starting game, we have our influence here for status in the different guilds. Just to show, the first spot in each guild over here is the guild master. You basically have full rights to doing stuff in the guild, most stuff in the guild. Then there's the journeyman, the next spot, and then there's the apprentice. And I believe the apprentice spot isn't used until a 4-player game. I don't know if we had it come up on our 3-player game.
No, we didn't.
Yeah. But with the guild action, anyone can trade. This is the action for trade. Each guild has an action space to show what the trade does. Farmers Guild is fairly simple. You send all of your goods from one farm that you have on the board.
Those are farms.
That's fine. You would send all of your goods from a farm into the Farmers Guild, and you would gain a food or shilling for every 2 goods that you sent there. Yeah.
So at the merchants, you can actually spend, depending on how much each of these is worth, or how much he has left of each of these, that much money to obtain up to 3 goods. So it's usually 1 for each of these in this column, except 2 for saltpeter.
I want to be the ruler.
You want to be the ruler?
And you can be the journeyman.
How did you end up at... Okay. So as he has less and less of things left, they cost more. So if a lot of people are buying wood, his wood prices go up. Makes sense.
Supply and demand. So in the Alchemist Guild, you can spend 3 money to gain one of these 2 available to start with vessels. Now we have an airship here. I don't know if you can see that. On my these nice
Super
little...
shiny things.
Yeah. Wood tiles, wood screen printed on them. Kickstarter exclusive.
So we have an airship that allows us to travel along these bird routes rather than on these roads. Sometimes they correspond, sometimes they don't. We also have a submarine available that allows us to travel along these bubble routes. For example, there's a bubble route here that you can see that isn't travelable by any other means.
And then we have the boat, the normal regular boat that can travel along some of these
Waves.
The waves that are on the board, some of the deeper parts. They can also travel upriver to get to some locations that are only accessible by those means. So
Now, if all of these are empty and there's nothing here that's built, you can use the ferry boats in case somebody won't let you buy them.
yeah,
Say.
it costs 2 shillings to move across a ferry route along that way.
Otherwise, you have to spend 3 to buy a boat.
Now I have the Knights Guild. The Knights Guild is the way that you get more influence. So you spend 3 shillings and you take all the influence in your row. It's mine. You can't have it.
And that's if the row is full or not.
You just
You
take
them all.
You take all of it.
Over here at the Royals, we can buy royal seals. So that we can seal various things, build feudums, use them on the royal writs, all these kind of things. And it's 3 for 1 or 2 for $6.
Yeah, 6 shillings.
What a deal.
Yeah. And then we get over here to the Monks Guild. The Monks Guild, you can buy one of the rosary beads for 3 shillings. And what you do is you take the highest, so I'll take this +4, and you take the lowest, so I'll take this +2. You give them to someone, they randomize them in their hands. They present you their hands, and you pick one of them. I want that one. And I get this rosary bead, this +2 rosary bead.
It's never the +4.
It's never the +4.
It's never the +4.
Yeah. Now, when you spend money at certain guilds, you'll have to pay the guild masters and the journeymans. Now, if I'm over here and I want to buy 3 food, it's going to cost me 3 money. So I'll take 3 money that I would have in my in front of me. I would pay 1 to the guild master, 1 to the journeyman, and 1 all the way over here to the church, because they expect kind of a tithe kind of thing. Now, if I spent more than 3 money, then it would repeat going around the circle. If I spent like 6 money, everyone would get 2. So I would get this 1 back. Kelly, you would get that 1 that's over there, and the 1 stays over here. Now, how do people get this money? And over here on this side, if someone's here, oh, that's me.
We all ended up over here.
Yeah. If I want to buy a rosary bead, I'll take some more money. I'll pay 1 to the guildmaster, 1 to the journeyman, and 1 all the way over here to the farmers guild, so they can kind of get a piece of the action. Now, anytime the guildmaster at the monks guild or the farmers guild takes a push action, they get to split those coffers between themselves and the journeyman, and they get any extras.
So the push actions are actually up here along the top. We did kind of notice that the push and the pull action of the next guild and the push action of the guild next to it are the same. However, the push action is usually better than the pull action.
Sometimes it depends on what you want to do.
It really does, and where you're a guild master of.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, the push action on the farm is you take some of these cubes and you restock the Merchant's Guild, getting points based on how many rows or columns you complete.
Yeah, and a good can't count for completing a row and a column. It has to be one or the other.
So you can't put this one here and count it for both this and this.
Yeah. So looking at that, I think I would push
here,
a couple food
here,
and probably one of the sulfurs or saltpeters. So I would push a couple food and let's put a sulfur in there.
And when you're pushing, you can do this a max of 5 pieces over the side. You can fill everything.
I'm going to fill everything then, so yeah.
If you're pulling from the Merchant's Guild, you only get to move 3.
Now, when you push,
you get the writs too.
Yeah, when you push, for every row or column you complete up to 3, you get 4, 5, or 6 points. When you pull, if you complete a row or column, you get 3 points, and you get the option to draw a royal writ. Now, pushing from the Merchant's Guild, you push to fill the shelves at the Alchemist's Guild.
Take 4 cubes to fill over here.
4 cubes to fill up to over there. And then just like before, up to 3 shelves that you fill, you get 4, 5, or 6 points. Pulling from the Alchemist Guilds, if you complete a shelf or a pile, as the sulfur and saltpeter are on piles, you get 3 points and you get a royal writ.
But you only get to pull 2 cubes.
But you only get to pull 2 cubes, yeah. So.
Hey, so from the Alchemist over to the Knight's Guild is a little interesting. So you can build a boat, right?
Yep, you can
build a boat, or you can build crud.
Crud, which is gunpowder, black powder.
Now there is a cost here for each of these things. So building a normal ship costs 2 wood and some food. You gotta feed your crew. You can also build an airship or a submarine.
Yeah, submarine.
Or, like I said, you can build crud. Now you can build 1, 2, or 3 crud.
So when you build crud, you're kind of limited in the amount that you can build based on how much of these columns are empty. So if this column down here was filled up, I can only build 2 crud, because to build a 3rd crud, I would have to fill in this one first, fill in an empty space in this column. So if I build 2 crud, this will basically fill up all of the influence for everyone. If this was empty and say this was empty, I could build 3 crud given that I had the resources, and all of the influence would fill up.
Excuse me.
And you would gain 4, 5, or 6 points for each thing that you build. And the pull action from the Knight's Guild is basically the same, but you get to do it only once. Build a crud, or build a ship, or make some crud.
Alright, so the push action for the Knight's Guild into the Royals Guild is you spend 3 influence tokens to create royal writs.
Royal seals.
Royal seals.
Yeah, it's...
To create royal seals. Getting points based on how many rows or columns you create, or you fill. The push action is you spend 2 to do the same, except you get 3 points if you complete a row, and you get some royal writs.
Yep. And notice they had to be 3 different color influence markers.
From here or from my board?
From here.
Does
to
one
push
of them
into
have
there.
to be yours?
No, it does not. So I
can spend my opponent's
I could
influence
spend
markers?
your opponent's influence, but you have to make sure that there's enough space. So since there's only 2 empty spaces, I could only spend 2 influence, and I'm probably gonna just pick other people's influence.
Oh, you're gonna pick mine.
Sometimes.
Well, that's yours.
Now, the push action from the Royal Guild to the Monks Guild is you get to push Royal Seals up to 2. And you take them, you flip them over, and you add the total of all of the rosary beads. If it is 5, 11, or 17, which did I hit 17? 6, 9, plus 10, that's 19.
You hit 17.
Yeah, so I got 6 points for that, so you get 4, 5, or 6 points. The pull action from the Monks Guild is you take 1 rosary bead. If it's 11 points, or its total is 11 or more, you get 3 and a Royal Writ. The push action from the Monk's Guild is similar to its purchase action. You take the highest and the lowest, you shuffle them up. It was a 5.
Wow.
Someone chooses one, or you choose one.
Hey, it's the 5.
It goes over there, and then based on its resulting total, 3, 6, or 9, you get 4, 5, or 6 points.
And this affects how many goods overflow when you sell to the market. This space, you only have room in your storage for 10 cubes here. So when you sell from your farm to here, or to the Farmers Guild using the normal farmer's action, you take how many of these or you take up to the 10, and then if you have any extras up to this amount, they get pushed over to here without getting points for the push action.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else goes back in the bag.
Back into the haversack. So those are all of the actions for the guilds. It's basically where all of the interaction happens on the board. And it builds a really nice economy that pushing from one into another and then pulling from another, it can kind of have a back and forth depending on who controls what, who's the journeyman or who's the guild master in what guild, and how that all works out.
Oh, and you get victory points at the end of each epoch if you're a guild master or a journeyman.
Yep. At the dawn of each epoch, you will score leadership in guilds. For every guild that you're a guild master in, you get 5 points. Every journeyman gets 3 points. Every apprentice gets 1 point.
And just to prove that everything on the board does affect what's up here, we were talking earlier about how the cubes do things. So if I have a knight on the board, it gets me 1 point of influence into this guild. Since nobody else has anything else, I get the guildmaster. But if Doug comes over and builds a feudum of this guild, he then gets 3 points, with tiebreakers being the number of farms you have.
No, that's not what it is.
No?
No. So you get 3 status for having a feudum. You have to exceed the amount of status that the ruler has, or the person above you has. So with my feudum in the Knights Guild, I get 3 status, and you only have 1. Now, to gain a leadership role, you have to have either a die or a pawn on the board, or a feudum. Those are kind of the primary status goals for guilds, where the farms, the outposts, or the cities, those are secondary status points that you get.
Yeah. You know what we forgot, Doug?
What did we forget, Kelly?
What is your wine for?
Oh yes, the wine. Every time you get a sulfur good, whether you buy it from the merchant guilds or you
obtain it through farms,
pilfer it from someone else, you have the option to throw it over into your cellar. So let's throw this sulfur over into my cellar. It counts as wine. Wine can be used to nourish pawns. So say if I have this pawn out on the board, I can spend it to nourish that pawn. While a pawn is kind of drunk on wine, he has no attack and no defense.
But I don't have to feed him for 2 turns.
Yes. So the next time the end of the round comes around, we just take this off, and he still count as fed, and the pawn goes, or the resource goes back to the haversack.
Also, at the bottom of the guild action, you can instead do a feast. So if you have 2 pawns of different colors, one of which being yours, you can spend the mead for 3 victory points, and you feast.
Oh no! So what it is you spend the sulfur and you take either a feudum, either a pull or push action in a feudum controlled by someone else, or a push or pull action in a guild of a different pawn, not belonging to you. So say if I feast over here in this town, I get to do a push or pull action from the Farmers Guild, and I gain 3 additional victory points for doing that action. So it's a way to do push or pull actions in a guild that you have no status in and no leadership in, for extra points. Lots of stuff. So we will be right back with our pros and cons, because we definitely have a lot to talk about in pros and cons.
Yeah, absolutely a lot of...
Alright, and we're back. Pros and cons. I like the game.
I don't. It's just not a game I play.
We
it's
have
not
our
a bad game.
differences.
It's not a bad game.
I
just don't want to play it.
This is like us in Dead of Winter.
I didn't mind Dead of Winter. But if I had other choices, I'd play other things.
Yeah, it's
really.
I mean, comparing this to Dead of Winter, it's apples and oranges. So.
Oh yeah. This game has enough intricacy and bits and pieces and just the guild thing and the way that the cards go. I'm gonna have to play this another 2 or 3 times before I finally understand how to play and actually do something besides go broke in the first epoch.
Yeah, that has tended to happen for me. At least in the first or second epoch, where you start to run low on food and you gotta see
I don't
what
run
you
out
need
of
to
food.
do.
I just run out of money to buy influence or things because I just sit there and farm.
Yeah, well, there's actually a lot of ways to get money in the game that we looked at. So one of the things I do like about this game is the structure of the guilds. It provides a great economy that one guild feeds into another, that feeds into another, and it's all cyclical because they all push and pull.
Definitely like the interaction. Like you can't just farm all the time. You can't just go to the farming guild. You do have to go to other places.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a matter of the timing as to when that works and whether or not you're guild leader. So picking your guilds early really does matter.
One of the strategies I found after playing the few games that we have is picking 2 guilds that are adjacent to each other, so you can
Feed
push
yourself.
from one and push into another. So yeah, it basically has a feed into it, but you do have to watch out to make sure what other people are doing with their other guilds to make sure that you can benefit the most from that.
I think it hurt me the most when my mother ended up in charge of like the Merchants Guild and people had to buy things from her and she was getting all of that money and I'm sitting here at the Farmers Guild and I'm the only one harvesting.
Mm-hmm.
And that annoyed me. I mean,
It happens.
People are buying things from here, but we almost went to the epochs quickly enough that it didn't need to get pushed. It was refilling automatically because of the epochs.
Yeah. I mean, it only refills in the 3rd epoch, but if you're pushing and if you're trading enough with the Farmers Guild, you should be getting at least enough money or food to sustain you through each kind of round that we play.
Yeah.
It's the whole dealing with what to get money from or what to get food from, because it was definitely a game. I think our first game, I ended a round with no food and had to take all of my pawns off the board, and that was just devastating.
And I put my pawn on the board too early.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I don't need to do this until next turn.
So there definitely are some intricacies on dealing with the guild economy as a whole and dealing with what you want to upgrade on the board, because I had a game against JT where all the farms were on the islands, and so none of us kind of went for the farms. I ended up with a Feudum on like turn 2 or 3, and so I had to work on getting a conquest taken care of so I didn't start losing points.
Sorry.
But overall, it is definitely a well-functioning, heavy game for those people that want one. Now we can talk about things that we don't like.
Things we don't like.
And even though I like the game, there are things that make this game needlessly complicated. Like that entire statement.
I think the epoch tokens could be done differently.
Yeah, we talked about it. It's design of the game as the board.
The board is super long. It's almost 3 feet by itself? 3
I
by
think
2?
so, yeah.
3 by 18?
Mm-hmm. I think redesigning it to have maybe you were saying have the guilds kind of off the end and up here at the top would be a little bit better.
I mean, even just or making them, like you said, a separate board where you can actually kind of make them like half circle or something, and they just kind of come on the end of on their own, or even their own little octagonal thing that's about this big.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, the artwork is great. It's fantastic. I love the artwork on the guilds. They take up too much room.
Yeah. Just looking at it, yeah, they definitely take up too much room for what they do in the game, which isn't much. I mean, if you look over there on the Farmers Guild, there's just the chickens, the spot where you keep the goods, and then the guild part, the guild leadership part.
I also figure I also feel like that this board has enough interaction that you need to pay attention to, and the guilds, you need to watch them, and they're on opposite ends, and they have enough interaction amongst themselves that you need to watch them on their own. That almost an entirely another board would be helpful to watch those interactions and see them work.
Mm-hmm.
And then just condense this down. Take 4 inches off.
Yeah, it would be better that way. But I mean, with 5 players, if you get up to 5 players, I think the big enough board.
It's still a
to get
family
people,
dining room table.
Yeah. So.
Which this is probably if
it takes up most of the 6-foot table that we're sitting at. So.
Yeah.
It's just small design things that we kind of nitpick at that we would like to see kind of done better, but
it's a little bit of function though too, especially with the way the guilds interact. It's personally for me, it's function for how the game plays.
I mean, it is set up really well to show that things are kind of cyclical, that it goes around in a circle. So.
I mean, these tiny little arrows that took me until my second playthrough to figure out.
Yeah, I'm sorry I didn't point those out. It shows them on the cards, and when I started playing this game, I'm like, oh, so this push thing is basically the same thing as the pull in the adjacent guild. Who would have thought?
Yeah, I got those arrows for that, but I didn't get this arrow goes over here.
Yeah.
I kind of got this arrow as this is the same action, this one's simply better. And I'm pointing at things that the camera can't see. But we'll point.
But we've talked about it when we
talked
did with the
about
guild
it before.
actions, yeah. But I would recommend it to people that want a heavy strategy game like this. I still need to play.
It's a great strategy game. It's like playing Terraforming Mars with all. It's great. It's fantastic. It's a lot of engine building.
Mm-hmm.
I'm starting to side with my mom on the artwork though. It's fantastic. It's just super dark. The board itself is dark. Which I get. I guess it's because it's the sun rising.
Yeah.
So everything's in shadow.
You're off in a new land, and it seems dark. So I kind of get it. I like the art style.
I
It's
like the
nice,
art style.
yeah.
The art is fantastic. It's just dark.
It's dark, yeah. Oh well, there's not really any fixing that right now at this stage. So
Any more than rearranging the entire board would, Doug.
yeah, exactly. So take
So send
pictures.
us a message on Facebook, Twitter, or email us at Geeks of Cascadia on any of those things.
Mm-hmm.
And even give us feedback. Tell us whether or not you like the audio versus the video. All that kind of stuff. Or if you have a game for us to play. Or you just want to come hang out and play games with us.
We will play games no matter what.
Rather
Rather play games.
Rather
than work.
play
Yes.
games than do work.
Mm-hmm. All right, thanks, guys.
See you later.
Boy, Doug and Kelly do a great job, and Feudum
They are
sounds
awesome.
like a fun game.
They're awesome.
Might be a little bit over my head, but I would love to try playing it. It gets a 7.8 on Board Game Geek.
That's
So
a good
cool.
rating.
Yeah, yeah.
Out of 100? Yeah. No, I'm just joking. It's not 10.
It only weighs 4.59 pounds.
Mm-hmm. That's important.
Yes.
I don't know why, but that's
Yeah,
important.
Well, it's on there, so
In
I'm
case you're
sharing it.
lugging it, I'm an infantry soldier, so
You're
carrying
used to
9
that.
pounds. That's long. So I can go 16 miles carrying a board game on the back.
Well, maybe sometime you'll get to go somewhere and bring a board game.
You never know.
Someplace feudal.
Yeah, maybe.
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 So that was great. So
Inside joke.
So,
Inside joke. Anyway,
Blue
go ahead.
Samurai, been doing any nerdy stuff?
Well, actually, no. I've been
too bad.
preoccupied with a lot of work stuff,
work
but
stuff
I am
stinks.
very, very excited about Infinity War coming out this
Infinity
weekend.
War is going to be so cool. I'm
Mhm.
not going to see it this weekend, but hopefully next week.
Really?
We go to matinees on Tuesday because
I
there's
go on
nobody
Sunday.
there.
I go on Sunday mornings, bring the boys.
We hate people, so we go.
I
There's
know.
no people.
I know you hate people. Which is why you've been avoiding Gen Con.
Yes,
You
there's
don't
so
like
many
those
people at Gen
But you got to
Con.
go one time
There's like 60
One time.
times the people at work at Con.
Still gotta go.
It's terrible.
because it's your job.
Yeah,
It's part of the
yes, yes, the podcast money
So,
is rolling in.
It's been great.
Well, speaking
It's
of
been great.
Infinity
That's how I got
Wars,
this beer.
I came
Yes.
to a round the table game pub in Linwood, Washington, and bought my copy of Thanos Rising,
Oh,
which I haven't got to play yet, but I'm hoping to play tomorrow with my wife. She's actually super excited, and she's not a gamer.
that is awesome.
Yeah.
So it's a 2-player game.
It's
Or
2 to 4 players. Yeah.
All right.
You got all Infinity Stones right there in your hand.
Man.
Yeah.
All right. Do you get to play Thanos?
No, it's a co-op game against Thanos.
So 2 people against Thanos?
2 or 4 people. You have a number of Marvel characters that you can draft to play.
As one person, you can have several
Yes,
Marvel characters.
yes.
Okay. Because being a Marvelite
Yes.
and into comic books
Uh-huh.
a lot, it's going to take more than 2 characters to bring down Thanos.
Yes, it is.
If you want to make it realistic.
There's a stack of character cards.
If comics can be realistic, yes.
Yeah, well, very realistic.
Yes. Anything else?
I don't think so.
Okay, well, I think we had a great show with a great game review. Thank you, Doug and Kelly.
Yes, so please go on iTunes and rate us 5 stars.
Yes.
And say how great.
You can even go on there, and if you hate us, write a bad review, but click 5 stars.
Blue Samurai is stinking
all we
boo-boo.
get. That's all we're asking for. Thank you, Mark Walters. Thank you, Dragonflight. Thank you, Metro Seattle Gamers.
Thank you, Around the Table. Thank you, Games Plus and Lake Stevens.
Thank you, Mom.
Yes, Mom.
For giving birth to me.
Yes. Thank you, Steve.
That's right. Thank you, me.
Not this
Thanks,
Steve. That's Steve over there that
That's
you
right.
can't see.
He's our DM. It's D&D night, so we got to do that right now. So thanks a lot. And remember, embrace the nerd, and I hope you make that saving throw.